One. Welcome to Washington East to West Sports. This is episode 125. I am Matt Beatty, joined alongside, as usual, by Sean Beatty, Kevin Ardolph. If you want to get involved in the show, go ahead and tweet or blue sky at us. I am at Beatty underscore Matt. Sean is at Nasty Billy 22. Kevin is at C to Bleep on X. And then on Blue Sky, I'm Master B 24. Kevin is Emerald Bowler, and Sean is Nasty Billy 22 on Blue Sky. So go ahead, let us know what you think of the topics we talk about in the show. Smash that subscribe button on this YouTube channel and tell us what you think of the topics we talk about in the comments below. We've got two topics because this is what our show is mainly about. Let's be real, Mariners and Seahawks. So let's start with the Mariners, and there's not really a whole lot of news for the Mariners, but there are a
That
couple.
is the news.
Huh?
That is the news that there's
Yeah,
not a lot of news.
yeah. There are two signings and well, sorry, one signing and one trade. Three signings. Okay, well then we'll get to that. But um, the Mariners signed Donovan Solano to a 1 year, $3.5 million deal, and the Mariners today acquired Miles Mastro Buoni
Yeah.
in a trade with the Cubs. Um, and then there are apparently other moves that I'm missing here. So, Kevin, I'm going to throw it to you for those other moves. And what do you think of these moves that I mentioned?
The other two moves we acquired some like bullpen people that you one from Toronto and one from the Brewers, I believe. That don't they both suck. Uh, so just like the other two that we picked up, they both suck. This is no news essentially. I will say Solano did have a stretch back in like 2021, like for like a month, he did hit like 12 bombs. So he has it in him, but he hasn't found it since. And it was just like a short, weird, random burst of just like, because I remember he was like on waiver wires. I think it was like either 2020 or 2021. Because I remember seeing him going off, and I picked him up, and he went off for about another week, and then he like was like, "Oh wait, I suck at baseball." That's right. And then yeah, so and he sucked ever since. Um, yeah, it's sadly. I mean, if we had picked up nobody, it's pretty much the exact same thing, in my opinion.
Well, let me ask you this, Kevin. Is this who there is going to be starting at second or third or whatever?
If it
Or
is, we're in fucking trouble. Sorry.
Sean, what do you think?
Um, Donovan Solano. Okay, let's just put it this way. He's 37. Out of the last, wow, one, two, three, four, five, six. Last 6 years, he's been above average hitter 5 of the 6 years. He has, and then 1 year he wasn't. He had a WRC plus of 99, so basically league average. To Kevin's point, is he just is so awful at defense that it drags down any value he brings with the bat. So if he plays third for us or second, it's probably bad. DH, it's probably fine. I mean, he had a 118 and a 116 WRC plus last 2 years in Minnesota and San Diego. Those are both big ballparks. So, but again, we talked about that with Jesse Winker, Colton Wong, Mitch Garver. They all had plus WRC pluses, and it doesn't seem to matter. So I'm not going to pretend to expect anything else. I mean, on paper, it should be better, but I can't imagine it's going to be. He's also 37, so you're buying at the time where he's super super old. I think this is a situation where it's a 1 year deal for $3 million for him. I think it's going to be he's a person keeping the seat warm for Cole Young when he gets called up at the All Star break. I think that's his job.
Are you calling that right now? Is that what you're
Calling that right
calling your
now.
shot?
Cole Young will be up at some point this year, and this guy will sit on the bench. Yeah,
Is that a hot take, Kevin? Is that a hot take?
I don't think it's that hot. He finished it
No,
really
no.
well at
I
Double A
mean,
last
we
year. So
we
yeah,
pretty much kind of assumed like it was just more a matter of when is he coming up.
yeah. If he doesn't make it this year, it's either because he got hurt at some point or he really struggled.
Yeah,
If he plays like he did anything close to last year, he will be on the Mariners major league roster. If not to start, if he gets a shot to start and tears it up in spring training and stuff, he
yeah.
might even start. But if he's at all capable, during the season and not hurt, he will be on this team. It just matters when will he be on the team.
And honestly, I think he'll be solid enough too, because like when you come up as like a young pup and you're essentially your batting coach is Edgar Martinez, it's
Yeah.
kind of good.
I think this the situation, Matthew, with him, the Mariners are kind of, and then we could talk about the other positions later. They're kind of in a weird spot because I think in the next 2 years, the three guys are going to be up at minimum, or three bats. I'll go four guys. Cole Young, Harry Ford will be definitely be up. I don't think Harry Ford's up this year only because he's catcher. Catcher just takes a little bit longer to marinate everything like that. I think he'll be up next year, along with uh, Colt Emerson, who's like the Mariners' top prospect. Everyone loves him. He's just like tearing it up. He's on all these like lists. I think I shared it with Kevin of like most underrated player. He was voted the most underrated player in all the minor leagues polls. He's going to be the guy who's climbing up. He's projected to even be like top three this coming after the end of this next year. He's like the shortstop of the future. JP Crawford, his time's limited, or he plays third till JP's like, you're done. In the next 2 years. And I think Harry Ford, and then I think Logan Evans, the pitcher, will also be up. Those four will be up minimum in the next year by next year. Not this year, but they will be up 2026. So Jerry's in a position where he's like, these are all highly regarded guys. Everyone wants them. If I sign a second baseman for 5 years, what do I do with Cole Young? Now, the other side is you sign it, then you figure out Cole Young later. But I get it. But Solano, I think he's just like a Jorge Polanco light. We had an option last year for keeping Jorge Polanco for $10 million. We are choosing to play this guy 3.5, where what either was going to be replaced by Cole Young, I think is the end goal here. So he just chose to, or the org chose to save $7 million on Jorge Polanco, basically, because he's Jorge Polanco. Yeah, like basically, a little older Jorge Polanco.
Okay. Okay. Um, the Mariners missed out on both Japanese players. That would be
Okay, Matthew, that is wrong in two ways.
okay.
The second baseman is Korean,
Oh, I'll say my bad.
and Sasaki hasn't signed. So
Well, I
I was
heard
about to say,
he
I was
is not in the Mariners are not in the running for signing him. This is what
I,
I've heard.
I mean, we've also heard he's not in the running, and then I don't think he is, but like we've also said, not it's down to two, and then someone's like, well, it's 2-3, and then I'm here today is well, it's four, and I'm like, well, how about we just wait till he signs? Because all this guessing is not getting anybody anywhere. So I agree he's not, but it's not official yet. So
Okay.
technically, sorry, Matt, 0 for 2.
Okay. Well, Kim Hae Seung, I don't know if I said that right. I'm sorry. I already called you Japanese. I'm sorry again. But we missed out on him. He went to the Dodgers. Shocking. The Dodgers signed someone else. And then Roki
He took
Sasaki.
less money to go to the Dodgers, FYI.
Shocking. And then Roki Sasaki is last I saw was not considering the Mariners. So um I want to ask you guys did you think that they were heavily pursuing them? Do you view this as an L, or is this just nothing because, you know, that nothing came of it, even though they may have been in pursuit of him? Sean, what do you think?
Uh, I think they were in pursuit of both, but again, 20 teams were in pursuit of both. Like, how much is pursuit? I think they wanted both. But like he said, like Sasaki took less money to go to the Dodgers because he's like the Dodgers are going to win, and that's the same thing Otani just did. And I'm like, well, yeah, like, can you blame him? Like, he just wants to win, and he's going to go to the Dodgers. So he's like, I'll take less money to go here. I'll feel comfortable there. Boom. I like. I can't. The Mariners can't come back and be like, no, you'll feel comfortable here. It's where he feels comfortable. Like you can't argue with his feeling. Like you can throw all the dollars that you want, and teams did. He did. Dodgers weren't even top three apparently, in top most money, but he was like, I'm going to pick where I'm comfortable, and it's like, okay, well, like I can't compete with that, and that's partially the Mariners' fault for the last couple of years because they could have made it so they could have won more, but they didn't. So, but again, like in this situation, what are you going to do when he picks where he wants to go with the head rather than the dollar signs? Because we always say like just offer more money. Well, teams did. I don't know if we can't confirm if Mariners are one, but he didn't pick. He didn't pick the top teams. So and then Sasaki, I would have liked the run at it, but again, the pitchers aren't our biggest issue. So we would trade. We would get one. We sign him, then we have to trade somebody, which is again not a big deal at the end of the day. But like we don't. Especially with him, who knows what the process looked like? Some teams got interviews. I don't know. Like there's a lot of like Mariners didn't get an interview, then they did, or they didn't, or they made a pitch. Like how far you? I don't know. Like I don't really know how it works with them. teams are like, oh, they gave like a half effort. I'm sure the Mariners are like, will gladly sign both players. But the question is, do the Mariners want to spend the money and do the player want to come here? We don't know the second and third parts. We don't know how true the Mariners' intention was in signing both players. And we don't know what the dialogue was with the player. So I'm sure they gave both a shot. How real is that shot? We'll never know. And again, like I said, like, am I going to be sad when it's Cole Young versus the Korean player? I can't remember his name now. Matthew butchered it. Went in my head.
Kim Hai Sung.
But yeah, they would. It would have been nice to sign Kim, and then have Cole Young figured out maybe at third or something like that. It'd been easier. But it's they've put themselves in the situation because they didn't sign players the last three off seasons. That's why they're in the situation. I'm not super disappointed in those two not signing. I'm disappointed because it had to be one of those two basically because of the situation they put themselves in.
Kevin, agree, disagree? What do you think?
Yeah, pretty much. If I were to guess, and like I said, we have no inside info on what's going on. I think they're going more for the second baseman than anything than the pitcher, just because you have pitching. Plus, you have, as we mentioned, you have Logan Evans, who's probably going to show his face sometime this year, next year, as well. Also, you still have Emerson Hancock down below too, who can come up and be a solid 4 or 5 guy. He's shown to be to where he can be a solid fourth, fifth pitcher in your rotation, or a bullpen guy, a guy that can probably get you 2 or 3 innings in a bullpen.
And it's the Mariners. They'll find
Yeah.
somebody else too. You know what? Like I have
there
complete
wa-
faith in the team pitching wise.
There's like 2 years ago, we didn't even know about like Logan Evans. Like, there's going to be somebody this year in the minor leagues that's just going to go ham, like pitching wise, and we're going to be talking about them. Like,
They have Michael Morales, who's in Double A. Who, I mean, he's not been a nobody. He was a third round pick a couple years ago out of high school, and he's been coming on strong. So he might be the
plus
next.
they had a kid in single A too that was
Yeah.
like going crazy too.
Brandon Wu was unheard of 2 years ago, and he's like the hottest number 5 in all baseball.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
it's the farm system looks phenomenal. It's just we need people now. Like,
yeah.
you essentially don't have bats to help out the pretty much the best rotation in baseball and one of the top bullpens in baseball. And pitching is what wins championships, but you still have to have hits. Now, well, I think it'll be better with Egger, at the helm with what we have returning. Yes, to where I think we could probably still make a push just because our pitching is so good if it stays healthy. But you still need help at that end. And I think signing the second baseman would help along that line. But unfortunately, the Mariners are known for one. I think you have a better shot too if you bring in, because there was rumors that toward the end of the season that they're going to bring in Ichiro as some form of position, like on the team and like managerial, not like, in some forms as like a representative of the team to where like he could, be like, hey, come on over, type of deal. But like, I was talking with my brother the other day. It seems like the Mariners have kind of lost that. But then I told him, like, at the same time too, we're pretty much grabbing everybody out of the Dominican Republic. So we
They
don't.
just signed a number 6 prospect
Yeah.
today.
So I was like, I'd rather take that. I'm like, give me all the Dominican Republic players at the end of the day.
and he's technically Venezuelan, but I get
But still,
international series. Yeah.
anybody south of the border, type
Yeah.
of deal, or in the Caribbean, like, we're just nabbing them all because they want to come here, especially now that you have Edgar Martinez as essentially your hitting coach. Like, what player? I guarantee you, they all know his name. Like, they'd be blind if they didn't. Like, they'd be just under a rock. But like, of course, they're going to want to go and play for Edgar Martinez. Like, and now that they see Julio and then people like Rosarena and stuff like that, Victor Robles, things
Well,
on
it's weird
that.
you say that, Kevin, and that it doesn't have the same effect for Japanese players wanting to come and play with
Right, but
Ichiro in the organization.
Ichiro's not officially essentially part of the team right now. I mean, he's an alumni, but like, he is not on the staff essentially, as far as I know. I mean, maybe I've missed something, but they were rumored to bring him in as like a representative of some
I
sort.
mean,
Like,
he's part. He still is. He's part of like the Oregon.
He has some role, I thought.
Yeah, he's
I
like
thought
an
he's on the
unofficial like
board,
ambassador. Yeah.
like an ambassador, yeah, something along that line.
Basically, he has keys to the stadium and he shows up whenever he wants.
He really should after his career there.
Yeah.
So
I hope
think
so.
Yeah.
A lot of Mariners have that. Griffey,
And
yeah. I mean,
honestly,
Griffey's an owner, so but yeah.
if you're going to be as cheap as you are, Stanton, you need to just let that man do what he wants, because like, the more he's around, the more it's going to make. But then unfortunately, even though Ichiro is great, the Otani factor kind of substances him right now because like they'd rather play with the best player in baseball at the moment, type of deal, who's currently playing and also is Japanese.
I
So
mean, yeah, I agree to that, but Ichiro is Jesus over there.
I
He
know,
is
but
he is he is who Otani wants to be one day. Like, yeah, Ichiro is still
but I
Ichiro.
mean, if there's a chance for somebody to like
Yeah,
join him
yeah.
on the mantle, it's Otani.
I
Like,
think with Ichiro, it's not that Ichiro's like a superstar before superstars, and then became a world superstar. So he's like kind of the first to do it. So he'll always have that place in Japan where he's like, "You're the world's superstar." No matter what Otani does, like he's always not first. Basically, he's not Ichiro.
right.
Yeah.
I forget what
But
year it was, but was it 22 or 21 where they played their opening two
Yeah,
games?
and he's facing off, and there's a advertisement of him on left field as he's hitting batting practice to his own face. Like
Yeah,
it's just like that's you don't see that. No one does that, but Ichiro does that. So
yeah.
yeah.
Any other news you want to mention about the Seattle Mariners at this moment in time? Any prospect updates or anything to
I mean,
mention?
no one's doing anything right now. But Miles Mastrobroni is 40 man. He's probably not going to be on the Ranger League roster. If he is, again, like Kevin said, we have a problem. Um, yeah, nothing's really happening. A bunch of players agreed to ARB deals and all that stuff.
what did we give away for him? I
It
didn't
was
see.
Cash.
cash, literally money. So
Oh,
yeah, he's not. It's nothing.
Jesus.
I
Yeah,
assume it's
everyone's
a
like, "Oh my god,
briefcase full of money is how you do
this
the transaction, right? I mean,
this is how we fix our team." Like, guys, no one that's gonna play anything is like going for cash and then whatever. But no, there's no moves being made. It's spring training. They announced their date. It's a month from today, February 14th. So they're gonna report. So or the pitchers and catchers are so or the 12th. So nothing happens prospects yet. So
all right. Well, let us turn our attention to football, a team that is no longer playing as well, and that is the Seattle Seahawks. Their final three games since we were last on the podcast, they lost the Minnesota Vikings 27-24. Then they played on Thursday night football at Chicago and won 6-3. That's a real score, not hockey. And then they won against in Los Angeles against the Rams 30-25 in a meaningless game for the Rams. Sean, what'd you think of the final three games for the Seahawks?
um, in general, I guess happy. Lost a close one to Minnesota, won a close one, and won a close one. Would have liked all three to be dubs, but realistically, they weren't all going to be dubs. It, it's exactly like kind of how I thought. They beat the Bears and lose to Minnesota, and then beat the not Rams, which is what Seattle's specialty has been. The Seahawks have not beat Matthew Stafford or Sean McVay, but they seem to beat when Matthew Stafford does not play. I think they're undefeated when Matthew Stafford doesn't play, and they literally can't win when Matthew Stafford plays. So that's how they beat the Rams. It's I said best case scenario when the season started, they win 7 or 9 games. They won 10 games. Looking back at it, these 3 games and the whole, it was a good year. I want to go to playoffs and everything like that, but I think these last 3 games showed, hey, Minnesota's a really solid team, still need a quarterback, but like they won a bunch of games and they hung with them at home. The Bears game is kind of the game that makes you nervous, even though they won. How putting 6 points up to the Bears and then the Rams. And we'll talk about the other part why they only gave 6 points to the Bears or scored 6 points to the Bears in the next part that he's going to talk about here. But all in all, winning 2 of 3 and being the third one really really close. I don't know how you be mad about it. I like it. I guess I would have loved it if they won all three, but I'm pleased with it.
Kevin, what'd you think?
Yeah, the same. I kind of like that we're like I was selling online. Like I'm okay with it because like I'd rather just we know we're not a contender, so I'd rather just get the better pick at the moment because like I'd rather get the better player to go down. A chances at getting a better player down the line versus like going in the playoffs because I see so many dumb Rams fans that just are like, oh, I was like, congratulations, you're not a contender. Sure, you beat Sam Darnold, who's never been in a playoff game before. Congratulations. You saw what happened. Like, I've honestly thought I Vikings are a good team, don't get me wrong, but like I don't think they're what their record shows. Do I think they're going to repeat
Oh,
next
yeah.
year? No, I don't think they're going to repeat that next year. I
Well,
think
the issue is it depends on what McCarthy looks like next year. If McCarthy's good, then they could repeat the record.
yeah,
If
it's
not,
true.
then yeah, you're right. You're right.
But I think this what we saw last night, uh, being essentially Monday night for us because this is going to come out later. But Monday Night Football is essentially the Sam Darnold that I know. Like that's uh, he's kind of like mini Kirk Cousins a little bit, like just not great in prime time, possibly, decent during regular season stuff, but like, yeah, it's
Cousins was undefeated in prime time this year, but I will say like I think it's just more of like the Rams, the Minnesota Vikings lost to two teams this year, and they were the Rams and the Lions, and lost to them twice. The Rams are just they match up really well with them, and when the Rams are healthy, they're a really good football team, and they're healthy, and they beat the crap out of the Vikings. Like it's what it is. Like, and again, like the Vikings, like Kevin said, their record they scored a lot of defensive touchdowns. Defensive touchdowns aren't reliable over and over and over and over. You have to find an actual way to win and they beat us because of Jefferson. But the Rams have a great D line, and they weren't letting these routes develop. And like to Kevin's point, Sam Darnold and a guy, he's like a Jared Goff. He's a point and click. If you get in his face, it's over. And when he got in his face, it's over. So that's why they lost. That's why I look at the Rams could get after a quarterback. Turns
I,
out
I didn't see the Bears game. I only saw the highlights, and thank God for that.
there was what highlights.
Yeah, I was about to say it was a blessing in disguise. But I mean, there was some crazy things on our defense that I saw, like Witherspoon just going just bananas, which was good to see. But then also next week and here's where I'm kind of, even though they didn't really have anything to play for, don't get me wrong, and we still won, we barely scraped it out against the Rams twos. Those were their twos, essentially, the
Okay.
majority of them. Like, and we barely scraped out against that. So like Seahawks fans need to come down to a little bit of realization on that. And actually Witherspoon looked worse. He was like went from a good game to so it's kind of like, did Spoon have a good game, or is just the offense of the Bears not that good? Like it's kind of like I want to give a little bit half and half, type of deal. Because I believe Witherspoon is a good player, and I think he's going to grow to become a really, really good player down the line, or at least just a dude, like as we mentioned on here, a solid dude that you can rely on. I'm not saying he's the next Richard Sherman. I'm just saying he could be a dude. Um, but yeah, all in all, it is what it is. None of us, I think, really predicted, them getting to 10 wins, like type of deal. I mean,
I think you
maybe
did actually, Kevin. If
I
I
might, but like at the same time, too, I didn't think the Rams were going to be what they were. I thought the Niners were going to be better than what they were.
They were just
Um,
devastated with injuries. They lost
yeah.
literally everybody.
And that's essentially kind of what the Niners seasons are, is when they don't make it, it's just they get plagued by injuries. Um, Honestly, no Seahawks fan should be like upset. Like realistically, we should have been like a 7-9 team. Um,
7-10 now, Kevin.
oh shoot, I apologize. Yes. So you add pieces onto it, and we'll see where we go from here. So
Yeah, the Minnesota game, I mean, it's just been kind of their season. They just seem to come up short against better teams and what are you going to do? I mean, there were quite a few times where they could have, taken the lead and they had the ball with a chance to go down and score and then the defense took it away and Gino threw a pick. So that's kind of been the Seahawks frankly entire season like that they have a chance and then a just shooting themselves in the foot or a turnover or just untimely they just get in their own way and then lose the game. So they held strong with the Vikings and I don't fault the effort. It could have gone either way and they just failed in the end. So oh well, they played a good team at the time very well, so I can't be upset about that. Chicago, that game is weird because short week, so certainly not ideal. The weather in Chicago is not great. Of course, that's not necessarily the biggest factor, but it is a factor when you are playing a football game. The Chicago offense, it's first of all, if you like defense, you really love this game. But if you liked offense, you didn't like this game. So I think both defenses played very well. Now, of course, the Seahawks offense certainly could have done
I
more
don't
and
know if
should
I
have done
agree with that.
more.
I think the offenses were just awful. Like,
Yeah, well, I
at
mean,
this point,
you could call it awful, but also the defenses do have to make the stop against awful offenses. So
they do, but when the offense shoots themselves in the foot and you tackle a guy limping down the field, yeah, they technically got to tackle the limping guy, but
yeah, you
he's
should
limping
tackle the
down the
limping guy.
field.
You could
Like
let the
he's
limping guy just hop down the field and score a touchdown, but you
it's
tackled
not
the
like
guy,
he
so
was
good job.
running down the field
Yeah,
like Usain Bolt. He was like hobbling along. Like, yeah, but most NFL defenses should be able to do that.
but
It's like I would say it's 70-30. Yeah, the defenses were just we're fine, but the offenses were just awful.
yeah, and I feel like Caleb Williams was just kind of set up to fail this year. It just like the offensive coordinator firing and then Eberflus being gone. He just never had anything stable. I think he'll be better next year. I also think the expectations were pretty crazy for that team, so we'll see what they are next year. And then the Rams game, they didn't play their guys, so the Seahawks were in a lose-lose situation regardless if they won the game because you win the game, everyone's like, "Oh, you playing the twos, you should win that game." And then if they lose, they're like, "Oh, you're terrible, you're playing the twos, how could you lose that game?" So it didn't matter whether they won or lost the game. It was going to be a loss regardless because they weren't playing their starters. I don't think the game really goes that much differently if the Stafford and the Rams played, but we'll never know the answer to that question. So, they got the win when they needed to, got to 10 wins, and I said 9-8, so they were a win better than I thought. Um, I don't agree with the notion that they are a 7-win team because we have 3 years of data now that says they're a 9-win team at least. So, I don't agree with that at all, but to each their own. So, let's talk about the offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb. He was fired after one season. He was fired shortly after the season was over. Kevin, I'm going to start with you. What do you think of the firing of Ryan Grubb?
I thought it was probably inevitable, sadly. I mean, sadly, but not sadly. Do I think we could find somebody better than Grubb? Sure. But like, is the offensive woes his fault? No, not really. Like, doesn't matter who you put in as OC when your O line is Charles Cross and four traffic cones. You're not going to be able to. And then what they were able to, honestly, what they were able to do with your offensive line being Charles Cross and four traffic cones is actually pretty crazy. Like, you know, especially with Gino not being, I mean, Gino's mobile, but like not mobile like what other people are, like Lamar and Jaden, Daniels and stuff like that. Um, so we'll see what they go and find. There's kind of rumors out there, and I don't know if we'll probably get time to talk about who we want on there. I kind of have one person. Well, I mean, I have a couple people on the mind, but there's one in particular I would like to actually kind of give a shot back, but we'll talk about that in a little while. But
No,
um,
no, we're talking about the OC right now. Who do you want?
okay. I mean, there was quite a bit, out there, but now especially that Mike McCarthy is like gone, and that staff's gonna. I'd like to see him give Schottenheimer another shot, because he was Dallas's OC, and honestly, him and Russell averaged 32 points a game until Pete Carroll came in and fucked it up. So, like, I think now is Geno Russell Wilson? No, but I think if you draft O line to help him out, and I mean Geno can sling it when he's got time. Don't get me wrong. Like Geno when he's got a pocket is should be people defenses should be scared of it. Like he can throw the rock. Like is he the most accurate? No. Is he Patrick Mahomes or Russell? Like no. But like he can do some stuff with his arm like when he's got a pocket. So um I'd like to see that. There's a couple other names that I've heard too, but and I'll let Sean kind of touch on that a little bit, but it's I think we'll probably hear in the next like 2 to 3 weeks, essentially, once it gets down to like past NFC championships, who we're probably looking at. So
Yeah, Ryan Grubb last year at UW, he had the best offensive line in college football. So he was able to operate his offense pretty much however he wanted to there. So, he had quite a transition here with the Seahawks offensive line, which was not good this year. I don't think I feel like he's kind of a fall guy, in the sense because the offense was, I think, mostly the problem this year. I will say that, but I don't necessarily think that he was the issue. I think he was a fall guy in the fact the offense didn't perform as well as it could. Um, as far as an OC in the future, I'm not really sure. I don't mind the Schottenheimer idea. I'm not particularly interested in retreading that necessarily. So I know there's a story out of who they've interviewed, but I'm not entirely sure uh, who it is because when I see the story, I see it on State Time, and I can't read that story on State Time. So it's going to be interesting to see who they choose. But on the other hand, I do like Mike McDonald, and if I'm sure John Schneider has him saying it, getting rid of a guy that they didn't think was working. You saw some in-season moves where they got rid of linebackers and all that sort of thing. And I like a coach who is willing to just look. I think this is a mistake. I'm going to move on from it and try and do something better. So I am completely on board with trying to fix the problem as opposed to just let's give it another shot. If Mike doesn't think it's working, if John doesn't think it's working, I applaud that. Let's move on. Let's see if we can find something better. Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll touch on the 7-win team. Talent-wise, they're a 7-win team. It's literally a coaching job to coach and win more games than you have talent-wise, and also luck plays a factor. Last 2 years was luck. This was, I think, more largely coaching. That's why they won more games than the talent says. I mean, like the Minnesota Vikings, they're not a 14-win team. They don't have that talent. Kevin O'Connell's really good. And they got lucky with defensive touchdowns. But I will say Grubb. I've thought about this for a while. I think he was going to get fired. Do I think he should? It's hard to say with could he have done more with this offense? Yes, but the offense was screwed from the start, as Kevin said, because the O line was just so bad that it's hard to institute anything you really want. Your playbook gets cut in half because you just simply can't run a number of things because you can't block long enough or
You can't run.
you can't well yeah you can't run and you can't really call a ton of like deep developing passing plays because they're not going to hold up long enough. Or you can only do it at certain times. You got to get funky with it. You got to have extra blockers. You can't, and it is Grubb's job to adjust with what he has, but he didn't have an NFL line. Like there's like like you're expected to have like just like a baseline of like competent play, and he didn't have that. Like that wasn't an NFL line. That wasn't a capable five NFL players. There were not five NFL players blocking for the Seahawks this year. Weren't the only team, but that's how it works. So then that's John's fault. And so it's it it would have been interesting to see if there was even an okay line what this offense looks like, but it's Pete and John's fault, Kev. But yes,
Yeah, there we go.
um, but it'd be interesting to see what his offense would have looked like with even an average offense of line, but we'll never know that, and that's fine. Moving on from him, uh, Kevin's Schottenheimer thing, it's fine. I don't know. I wouldn't mind like a Ken Dorsey who has done well where he goes. It's just obviously Browns didn't work because Browns. We could spend a whole podcast why the Browns are a mess. That comes from the top down, and paying a rapist $50 million a year to not play football for you is probably all. And he was literally the worst quarterback in football according to EPA with 100 snaps. And think of a quarterback that played snaps this year. Watson was worse than them. Anybody like Will Levis, anybody, Mason Rudolph, like he was worse than all of them. Like
Daniel
literally,
Jones didn't throw a fucking touchdown at home for almost a year
it's
and a half.
it's literally almost as like if the one of the three of us played quarterback for the Browns. That's how bad it was. And I'm like, everyone's like, well, he didn't do that. I'm like, no one's going to do well when a quarterback is that bad. Like, no one's going to call a good game. And Chubb's down, and they're trading away their wide receivers. Like, it's just like, what guru would have done well with that? He's running DTR at the end of the year. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, what's happened? Like, how are you going to score any points with DTR, no Chubb, and you have no wide receivers except for one? Like, I don't know what you're going to do. So and Ken Dorsey was great with the Bears or the Bills. So I'm like, let's. I'm not fine with that, but I'm also not fine with going some like they're interviewing the Vikings guy right now. I think he's technically their quarterback coach, but to be their OC. He's a young guy, 37, I believe. And he's kind of worked with Kevin O'Connell for a while. And I'm like, if I could get any of that Kevin O'Connell magic rubbed on us, like
Grant Udinsky?
yeah. So somebody like that, some guy that's just going to bring in some new, fresh ideas for an offense for 2025. I'm all for it. So I don't pretend to know like, and no one really does like who. I mean, which before 2017, did anyone know who Sean McVay was? The tight ends coach for the Redskins at the time. Yeah, I'm sure everybody was like all on board on that one. Yeah,
I did.
yeah. Everyone's like next coaching hire, or LaFleur, who was on Kyle. Basically, Kyle Shanahan's tree is just amazing. Kevin O'Connell,
Well,
LaFleur, and
dad's coaching tree. Kyle Shanahan was
Shanahan.
on the tree.
Yeah.
It was
but yeah, but like,
Papa Shanahan's tree. Yeah.
well, Papa Shanahan was a dinosaur, and his ideas were outdated. I think Kyle
Right.
made.
Well, I'm saying the tree, sir, he was him, and then his son and them were the.
Well, if you do that, Kevin, then literally it's like we're going back to like the first guy. No, because like he has nothing. He does not call a game like his dad.
Everyone is a
just,
Vince Lombardi tree, okay? It's a giant Vince Lombardi tree.
Right.
Oh yeah, yeah. If it's that tree, it's all from Vince Lombardi down because that's how big the
So
tree
I'm
is.
just saying Kyle was a branch with them, and then Kyle stemmed out first and then added to them. So it technically originated from Papa.
Hold on,
No,
we're
they're
almost out of time
it's a
here.
different
We'll talk about this
It's a different
right
tree.
after this break. Welcome back to Washington East to West Sports. Thank you so much to our sponsors, our advertisers, everyone that absolutely pays for this podcast with
That's-
their views. So, if you want to be an advertiser, let us know. Go ahead and leave a comment on YouTube or tweet at us. I'm at Beta Matt. Sean's at NastyBilly22. Kevin is at C2Believe. That's SEA2Believe on X. On Blue Sky, I'm MasterB24. Sean is NastyBilly22. Kevin is Emerald Bowler. .bs, whatever the thing is. So let us know if you want to advertise or if you've got any comments about what we talked about in the show. If you got some Mariners comments or some Seahawks comments, let's get back to our conversation. Heated debate, clearly, about the offensive coordinator position that is now open. And I have the story up and I have some free reads. So those names are Clint Kubiak, which I'm not sure about that one. And then the other candidates are Thomas Brown, who ended the 2024 season as the interim head coach for the Chicago Bears, and Hank Fraley, the offensive line coach for the Detroit Lions. They both interviewed for the position last week. Do any of those names stand out for you that I said of Grant Udinsky, Clint Kubiak, and then Thomas Brown or Hank Fraley? Sean, what do you think?
No, Udinsky does the most. I've just heard people talking on him that I view as smart online. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know who like is going to be the best fit based on how they call a game because a lot of these guys have never been an OC before. I mean, Clint Kubiak is, but like I don't want that one. But a lot of the guys that I want to take a shot on haven't been OCs before. It's more of like what style, like a Kevin O'Connell, who are they learning from? And like that's what I want kind of an offense to look like why everyone like Ben Johnson. You want Ben Johnson's offense, like something like
So
that.
then Hank Fraley, the offensive line coach?
Offensive line coach are like they tend to be like ground and pound, and I just want to be like you need a Ben Johnson style, like because Fraley ground pound's not going to work for this team because even if we get a guard or two, we're still not going to be a great running team yet. So just ground and pound, and it when we don't have the Detroit Lions O line, it's not going to go as well as the Detroit Lions. It turns out. So I want us to kind of come up with more funky ideas. I want someone who's going to take shots like Ben Johnson, who's just pulling out random shit in like week 18 of the NFL season, playing for the number one seed, doing Statue of Liberty plays downfield. Just guys who are just taking shots at people, like don't care, just letting it rip. And I'm like, I want someone like that. And if it comes from Kevin O'Connell, the Minnesota Vikings OC, or somebody like that, I want someone who's going to facilitate this passing game the most, and then use the run game to get people like in light box, to get people not playing light boxes all the time, and take advantage like what the Detroit Lions do. You play light boxes, you're going to get burned. You do all these other things, you're going to get burned. And so I want someone that's going to set it up like that because we have three capable running backs. I think Kevin could talk about it. Kenny showed he could be a capable running back in the NFL in the last week. So I think we have three capable running backs that can do this thing. So make them start to fear these wide receiver room, and then run the ball when you get those light boxes that you should be getting. And that comes with, but like set up something funky, do some stuff that's not seen before, get kind of people off their game. That's what I want. I just want something like that. And I don't pretend and I don't trust anyone online who says they know who that guy is. So you're going to have to kind of take a shot. That's not my job to hire the people. It's the Seahawks' job to hire those people. So Let's hope they make the right call. Usually it tends to be a younger person, but I mean, if there's somebody who's older and knows all that stuff, go for it. Like, just please bring new ideas. Don't be Mike Vrabel and say today, like, teams who have ran it 40 plus times are 100, 402 or something like that. And just, do we know why that's a bad stat that I just said? That's
You
more
said
of Matt.
I
400,
I don't care.
400 wins and 2 losses. Do we know why that's a bad stat, Matthew?
I don't care.
Because when you have the
I didn't hear
lead,
the comment. I don't care. But
you're running the ball. You have the lead. You didn't get the lead because you ran the ball. You got
right.
you yeah. If it was that easy, just run it 20 times and you'll win the game. It doesn't work that way. That's why it's a bad stat. Okay, so yeah, well, I want someone who understands that is dumb what he said. So today, so let's do that.
yeah, and it's a thing of like, how much say does Udinsky really have in the offense? Because I know Kevin O'Connell calls the play, so how much of that offense is
Yeah,
really
the whole Andy
his?
Reid thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Thomas Brown didn't really inspire a whole lot as the interim head coach of the Chicago Bears. So, I mean, we beat them 6-3 when he was the coach. So that doesn't really inspire a whole
That's
lot.
a
But
mess. Mess from
it
top
was a
down.
it was a
Yeah.
tough spot to be in for sure. Of these names, Kubiak has the most experience. Hank Fraley, uh, I don't know how much say he has in the Ben Johnson offense really. So it's hard to say with.
Kubiak has the most experience at being okay. Do I want
Yeah, yeah.
like you're
I'm
okay?
not
Do I
particularly
like
interested in Kubiak. I'd
okay?
like to
Like
get a guy who hasn't been tread plenty of times in the NFL, and we know what we're getting. I would like to get something new in there and see what someone can do really.
yeah, if you're just rolling the dice on okay and that's your upside, what are we doing here? I want to roll the dice. I'd rather
So I mean,
it
I
flame out or be really good. I want it
based on
hot either way.
based on these four names, I'm more in the Hank Fraley camp. I don't mind Dudinsky, because he had some influence in making that offense what it was throughout the season. Now, I don't think any of us really believed in Sam Darnold, and that kind of proved to be the case towards the end of the season. But um, to get them to 14 wins is certainly an accomplishment for what Sam Darnold has been and what we all thought he would be. So, I don't think they can go wrong with either of those two guys, and hopefully there's something there that these coaching staff
Those
and
those guys
GM
got Kirk
see.
Cousin paid. Those guys got Kirk Cousin paid. Look
That's
how that
true.
worked out for
That's
the
true.
Falcons. Yeah.
So, I mean, Fraley is probably the guy I would pick out of those ones, but we'll see what happens. Kevin,
I
what do you
choose
think?
secret option number 5 and none of the above.
Honestly, and hear me out. Like I said, I still think you go with the Schottenheimer pick. Essentially, because one, Schottenheimer really has never gotten, well, he technically, to an extent, has gotten to be an OC by himself. Now, if he comes back, he's being an OC by himself. When he was with us originally, he designed essentially all the passing stuff, and then Pete added in the power run type of stuff. Then when he goes to becomes the OC of Dallas, Mike McCarthy is essentially doing a lot of the play calling, like heavily influencing and stuff like that. Like Brian Schottenheimer never really got to be his full. Like I want to see Brian. Like I liked what I saw of the passing game with Brian Schottenheimer when he was here with Russell during the 2020 season. And then I would like to see what he can do with a run game that doesn't have heavy Pete power run bullshit. You have to add a certain amount in. Now, should you have more of a run game than what we have asked with Ryan Grubb? Yes. But at the same time, too, Ryan Grubb did the smart thing of like, I'm not going to force the run when I can't run the ball, like aka Mark Sanchez yelling at him that we need to run the ball in the
What's the
stat.
point of losing
Like,
2 yards on a first down
yeah,
handoff?
exactly. Like
Like,
if you have no O line and you know you can't let so that like to that degree, Ryan Grubb is actually smart. Like he's like, I'm not gonna freaking force the run, when I can't do there. Now he should have done situations kind of like what he did in the Arizona game when he's like pulling two guards and doing crazy blocking schemes and mixing it up type of stuff to where like their defense wasn't expecting it, and then you have freaking Charbonnet going for yards on end.
Charbonnet was definitely more efficient than Kenny. I think that played to the styles. I think the way how bad the offense was and what he called, it fit with Zach Charbonnet way better than it did with Kenny. Kenny tried to bounce everything, and it just was, or like wait a little bit. I'm like, just go. You got to just go with this offensive line. It's not
I know what I'm getting with Schottenheimer in the passing game, and I like it a lot. And it's like now that you're letting him add his own running game to it after he's been influenced. Now, are you going to see a little bit of influence of Mike McCarthy and Pete Carroll? Yes, but he's probably going to add his own stuff into it because he's going to be able to get to do his thing. Like you're not going to have Mike McDonald adding stuff in. Mike McDonald's just going to be like, you do you. Like
What I have a question for you then,
Well,
Kevin, with Schottenheimer. What point do you then get worried with Schottenheimer? What does it take for you to see that, like, okay, maybe he was also part of the problem?
essentially, if hmm, I would say, and that's the hard part too, because the O line was different back when Russ there was a
It's still
little bit,
bad, but yeah, yeah.
yeah, but you could run the ball more. That it was worse at pass protecting, which was weird, but better at running. But you have Russell who could bail you versus now you essentially you I mean, yes, can Gino do it, but Gino doesn't have that he doesn't have that instinct yet. That's what they need to teach into him. And that's what I think Brian could possibly help him do is be like, hey, when you see it, you need to step up and get 5 yards for us.
The,
Like run and
yeah.
slot.
The question's
Like
going to
or
come
throw it
down
out.
to the next OC has to be very good with quarterbacks, not even a great play caller with quarterbacks, because they're probably this OC, if they're good enough, is going to be here while they develop their next guy.
Right.
And so you're going to have to get the guy who's not just a great play caller, but like not even I don't know how good Ben Johnson is at developing guys, but like you know what I mean, like a Kevin O'Connell, someone who's known for like, or the guy old quarterbacks coach for the Seahawks and now is the head coach
Jim
in
Zorn.
Carolina.
Or
Or
no,
no,
Dave Canales, sorry.
Carolina. Yeah, like who's known for actually working and developing and making the quarterback better. You need a guy that's going to do that because we're going to draft a
Well,
quarterback in the next
well,
couple
you,
of years.
you you could also, like you just mentioned, have your offensive coordinator just hire a good quarterback coach to
It,
coach up the next guy,
but so
as the
I saw
Dave Canales did.
I saw this though. This is the it becomes a problem then. It's why you when you drafted a defensive coach, it's kind of a problem. Someone said this came from a Bears fan. They said like, look, we're going with the head coach. We have Caleb Williams. We need a guy who's going to help Caleb Williams develop. That is the most important thing with our franchise. You saw it with what the Commanders became before and after their franchise quarterback got there. Franchise quarterbacks change everything in an instant. CJ Stroud, they're in the next round. Like Washington's going next round, 2 years. Like you draft a guy, you're drafting top two picks, and now you're in the second round of the playoff 2 years later. Quarterbacks will change the landscape completely. The problem is going to be you have to find a guy that's going to help with that. And if you're taking a head coach and you draft defense, you can hit on that guy, but it doesn't change the needle as much as drafting the offensive guy who helps change your quarterback. So basically, if you draft a defensive head coach, you have to hit 2 times instead of 1 time. And now, Matthew, I get what you're saying, but you don't draft a guy now. We drafted, I think we got a guy who's we hit on the head with that, but now we also have to hit with the OC guy. And then now, if you not doesn't draft quarterback, we also have to hit on developing the quarterback guy. So now we have to hit 3 head coaches when you're not going to be perfect, but we're
But did,
making it so we had to hit 3 times
but did
basically.
Bevel develop Russell?
Uh,
Uh,
I don't know.
I don't
I
know,
don't
man.
know.
I don't know. That's hard
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, Sean, but I think as like Kevin just mentioned, like did Daryl like it's really hard to tell sometimes.
But
It,
like
And
I
also,
get I get
like
Deshaun's
I get what you're
extent.
saying
like
with Caleb.
2011 is also not this year. The football has dramatically changed since
I
then.
know. Now, I get that is the landscape, but do I agree with Sean that that's 100% of how they get there? No. I think that's more like 70% of how they can get there. They can still get there in other forms and fashions and still be great.
They
But
can,
like,
they can, but
because you have Cliff,
that's
like Cliff,
that's the easiest way to get
Like
there.
here, like when you look at the Lions, like Dan Campbell's not an offensive guy, and I don't think he's really a defensive guy. He's more of a I'm going to put guys in the position
Yeah,
to make my team the
that's
best, and that's
but that's
why
not
I
the
think
point.
Ben
The point's
Johnson
gonna
thrives. Now, will
yeah.
he thrive at a
The
head
point's
coaching
gonna be with
position? It's hard to
yeah.
say,
The
but right
point's
now
gonna
it looks
be
like he's going to be pretty good.
will the Lions survive Ben Johnson leaving as the point?
Exactly. And
Like
will
that's
Ben
not the thing.
Johnson have success where he
Exactly.
goes based on what
But
personnel he has?
it's not.
So,
But it's not like he did this head coaching job. It's will they survive Ben Johnson leaving? Is the question.
yeah, definitely. And but will Ben Johnson have success where he goes with the talent that he has there? That is
That's
also a question.
yeah. Like
I see a lot of people loving Ben Johnson. I like what he's done with the Lions offense, but that does not guarantee success where you go.
no,
If
absolutely
you
not.
get hired, if he gets hired in Chicago, for example, does that necessarily mean Caleb is going to be elevated and they're going to be really good next year?
Not
Absolutely not.
necessarily.
But Could he help develop him in 2 or 3 years down the road? Will they be good? Certainly, but that
Yeah,
isn't a guarantee at all.
but
Now,
that's the job.
yeah, and so with the hiring of the OC, and Kevin wants Schottenheimer, and if they interview him, then he's a serious candidate. But right now, they're not hiring somebody who they're not interviewing. So it seems like these are the 4 guys, and maybe there's some more that come down
Well,
the line.
you're not going
They're
to
hiring more
see
guys. They're
serious,
interviewing more guys.
you're not going to see serious interviews until like after the AFC NFC
Yeah.
championships. Like
Yeah,
Pro Bowl week is essentially when you're going to start to see the interviews.
My point is, why hire 2 guys when you know a big part of it is developing the quarterback? Just hire the OC who can also develop a quarterback.
Because the OC
I'm not
is
saying-
also overseeing more than just the quarterback.
I know, but
Quarterback's
they
a big
can-
part of the offense, but also you need to put a quarterback coach in who can help you develop a guy as well as yourself.
And they need to, and you're going to have a quarterback's coach. But just because I hire an OC that doesn't mean that then the quarterback's coach I hire is any good at that.
But also,
I mean, yeah, but
too,
that's also part of it. Sorry, Kevin, go ahead.
Because I remember, I back then I was dumb and I used to watch who's the dumbass that's on Fox that has his own show?
Colin Cowherd?
Yes, but he was a big Russell Wilson
He still is.
He
still is.
Yeah, I know. But he brought Russell on the show during that season, and Russell could be just in Robot Russell, but Russell did say that he learned a significant amount from Schottenheimer. Like him and Schottenheimer were like
well, the rumor also is that Russell got Schottenheimer fired. But that's also
well, I mean, I don't know how that's I think it was just Pete being dumb.
I know that, but like with Robot Russ, it's hard to tell what's true and what's not. You know what I mean? And same with Pete. It's hard to tell what's true and what's not because Pete was always not truthful. Like
right.
It's hard to tell
Keeping
who developed Russell.
Hand close to his chest.
Yeah, it's hard to develop who developed Russell because Russell needed developing. But like there were so many cooks in that kitchen though too. Like, you know what I mean? Like we had so many cooks in that kitchen because at first he wasn't really developed. And that's obviously, that's the time of developing.
I mean, I honestly I think he was pretty developed by the 2017 season when
2017? No, I mean by 2013. Like,
well,
by 2017, he'd
right. But more of a gunslinger. Like the year that Doug had 15 touchdowns?
He could, that's the thing. He could have been a gunslinger before that, but that's not what they
That's true.
So
because Pete Carroll likes to run the ball and we have
it's who out of the 5 guys that became NFL head coaches in that room helped develop him. You know what I mean? Like Schottenheimer, Bevel, Canales, like all these other guys. I don't know, like maybe a combo of all of them. But I'm gonna lean probably Canales because he's done it like 3 other times now with other people.
And that's part of the problem with trying to assign numbers. Like we'll never be able to have a number to say this is how much this guy developed this guy and this guy developed this much. So you don't have to hit. You have to have a combination of guys that work to get the player to be what you want them to be.
But you don't.
And so the percentage and how much influence they have doesn't really matter as long as you develop the quarterback to be realized for his potential. That's
it does matter. You just never know the number.
Yeah, absolutely.
It 100% matters. If I told you it was,
of course it matters, but you can't put a number on it. It's impossible. Like,
yeah, it's not. Well, it's just because it's possible doesn't mean you don't try. Like you try to do the best. That's the whole idea of analytics. You try to still get the best numbers. Nothing's gonna be perfect, but you still try to get better numbers. But like, you still try to figure out like, is there a system? Is this working? Like, what is it? Because like Ben Johnson's like, Goff, you suck at a lot of stuff, but you throw digs and comebacks really well. Let's just call all those. And you suck with pressure. Let's get a great O-line and call 2 routes. And here we go. We're number 1 seed in the NFC. They were 3 wins before Ben Johnson got there. And now they're dominant in the NFC. Like, it's just like, it's knowing an OC who understands your quarterback, and can make the most out of your quarterback, because no one's going to sit here and tell you Jared Goff's a superstar, even today, but he's getting the most out of what he has in that situation. So you're trying to find somebody who can do that with a quarterback we're going to draft and develop. And I'm hoping we get an OC that can do that as well. And then they can pass that wisdom on to maybe a quarterback coach that they hire. It doesn't even necessarily they have to come in and have all these ideas for quarterback, but hey, can we work with, I don't know, let's just call the next guy Russell. Can you work on Russell doing this while I kind of do some stuff, and then you can help coaches will learn too as well. Coaches develop as there, but you need to have somebody in there that's like, I don't say quarterback whisperer, but like, because we're not going to probably be drafting top 5 probably with any of these picks in the next couple of years. So you are going to take kind of a project on, right?
If Gino gets hurt, I think you do. But
Well, here let's
Yeah,
move
probably.
on to the next topic here because
But you'll need to develop a quarterback. That's going to be the guy.
there's been talk about the quarterback situation, and Gino has one more year left on his deal. I've heard some things on the internet about wanting to go to Sam Howell. So
Okay, let's just between the three of us. Gino's not going anywhere. Let's stop the stupid shit. There's no one else to put in this spot.
Yeah.
Well,
like,
okay. Well, so that was gonna be my question. So
yeah,
are we all in agreement that we
Mike
think
McDonald
Gino will be the quarterback next year?
Mike
McDonald said
he
it.
wants to sign him. Yeah.
Yeah. Mike, the easiest point is who's playing quarterback without Gino Smith?
He said wants to sign him. Is that what he said? Like
wants to extend
extension
him beyond next season.
Oh, really?
Extend him beyond next season. Yes.
I mean, we'll see how long that is. Like another year or something, because it's more capital.
Yeah.
Like it's
right.
That's what.
Do you guys want to extend him?
It depends. It depends on what they do.
I think you guys might be going from a money perspective, and I understand that.
That's what
outside of the money perspective, I don't want to extend him.
Okay.
So outside of the money perspective,
no, I don't want to extend
maybe one more year because the quarterback class isn't great this year, and then like I don't know how it looks the following. It's more of like what can you replace him with in the draft and free agency, and I'm like this year's terrible for this, so you're obviously done there. But like,
I think this is what you do essentially because
Lauren just came in the room and shook my head at me for my Gino take. I'm sorry.
You sign him for 2 years.
Man,
2
I'm
more
getting
years
the finger wag right now.
Okay, so Gino's 34.
Yeah.
I essentially I think you kind of re-give him the contract that you have. You give him 3 years to where you can option him out after 2.
Yeah, that's exactly what you do.
And to where just in case your guy needs a little bit more time to develop, you don't draft this year, but you draft next year. You
don't have to draft next year.
Right.
That's the thing. You don't force yourself into taking.
Well, I know. And plus, that gives you more of a window to try to find the quarterback you want.
Yeah, exactly.
But the hard part is that eventually you do have to bite on somebody. Like we can't just fucking wait all day. Like eventually you got to, because other teams are going to want stuff too. Eventually, other things are going to come around, unless like some weird circumstance thing happens again, like people were talking about trading for Jacksonville's quarterback. I forgot his name.
Trevor Lawrence.
Mac Jones.
I'm good.
Mac Jones.
Or Mac Jones? Is that who you're
No, Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, okay.
Why would they trade him for him? And he's getting like $50 million a year. What are we trading for him?
People were saying some dumb shit, dude. I'm just giving theoretic
okay,
crap.
All right.
There's no one else to put. Kevin's right. You extend him for a little bit. You relieve some cap space.
Right.
He's totally fine. He's not hurting. I mean,
people. I mean, we never thought we got rid of Russell. We never.
In general, he's a plus. He's not a negative. He's a plus. So right now we have a plus quarterback. You extend him, save a little bit of money, cut some guys, and then you look, like Kevin said, next 2 years, you got a 2/3 years window to try to find a guy in the draft, or you trade for somebody that you like, but you got a little bit longer than having to trade up for, Shakir or Sanders or whatever you're doing at stupid quarterback position this year. Like, don't force yourself into a situation where you have to do something stupid. And he's fine enough right now, and he's only 37. You're totally fine there. It's stupid to consider playing.
I think you just be like, hey, we're going to repeat your contract starting this year.
Yeah.
To where like at the end of the 2026 season or the 25 to 26 season. Shit, no. It'd be
the 24-25 season.
It'd be the 26 to 27 season.
Yeah.
At the end of that, we can option out to where
he has one more year. So if you add it, it's 3 years. So then you would.
So it'd be the
27-28. It'd be 28-27.
Yeah. You're restructuring the contract to adding 2 years to it, but you can opt out after 2. So you could opt out after the 26-27 season.
No, that's 2 years as of right now. You're adding 3 more years to a current deal. That makes it 4. So you're opting out after 3 years.
But this next season is the final season, though.
Yes, but you are signing a 3-year deal after this.
I'm just saying add 2 more years to make it another 3.
So that's not the deal he just signed. He signed a 3-year deal.
I know. I'm saying essentially you're adding on this is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Semantics here.
That's definitely not. That's $40 million for another year.
Give him 3 years in total, including this season, to where you can option him out after 2. That is what I'm saying.
I don't know if he takes that, but that's fine.
Uh,
Like that's the biggest part of
I
it.
mean, see,
Or
that's the part of the
go.
thing here. It's on one hand, are we going to find a better quarterback, Gino? Probably not. Probably not.
Definitely
Um,
not right now.
but
No,
is he the
that's a
future?
no.
No, no. He's 34, going on 35. Not the
Yeah,
future. So part of me thinks, we have fans calling for Sam Howell. We could just
no.
give them what they
Or
want
go.
and absolutely just tank and have maybe
You
a top five
saw what
pick.
that did. You saw
Now,
he got
I'm
sacked
just
four
saying.
times on 6 plays. Like,
I'm
what are
just
we
I'm
doing?
just saying. If
No,
you really wanted your top five pick, that's probably how you're going to get your top five pick,
you
right?
don't draft. You don't draft any lineman and let Sam Howell get murdered
No, no,
for
no, no, no. I'm
17
not saying don't
games.
draft any linemen. I'm just
No, that's what I'm
saying,
saying. Like you literally can just draft defense all this season, build a great defense, and be like, hey, we're not drafting any guards for you, Sam Howell. Good luck. We're getting a top 3 pick. Like that's because that's you guaranteed
I
it
don't
right
think
there.
that's a good long-term strategy either. But
Sam
um,
Howell can be here long term either. Good luck. Like
I know,
you're
but
out
I'm
of
not
here.
gonna set him up to just die back there. Like set up, like
Who
get a
cares?
couple guys
He's
into like
gorgeous. He'll
do
be a model
something,
after he'll be a model after his career. Who cares? Like, you're fine.
Uh,
Butt
so
slaps out the door.
if Sam Howell is as bad as we believe, then that would be probably
I,
top five pick territory.
I don't think
So
he's as bad. I think he's a Sam Howell. I think is a fine backup. The issue is he's a fine because he played fine for Washington the year before. It's just this offensive line is a disaster fire. It shows you how good Geno is compared to what you think he is. Sam Howell's more closer to average, and the fact that Geno managed to do what he did says he's a better quarterback than a lot of lamos think he
yeah,
is.
yeah,
That's the issue.
I do think
Sam Howell's
Gino
more closer to average. Yeah.
is a very good quarterback. We're not gonna find anything better,
No.
but that would be my alternative. Is do you want to try and just
No.
get a top five pick to get that big draft capital like you guys all want to get that
I
top
I
quarterback?
think no. I think you have enough pieces here where it's nice and looking nice. And I think at one point, to Kevin's point, in a couple of years, you're gonna have to bite the bullet and trade a lot to get one of your guys. You have to go up and get a guy, and that's what it's gonna be.
I I mean, I guess in theory that sounds good. I don't know how plausible it really is, but yeah,
It happens every year.
maybe, yeah,
Everybody trades up every
maybe.
year.
But then you be the 49ers and get Trey Lance, and then what'd you get for that? So it's I don't know
You
if
could be
that's
all the other teams who trade up and get their guy. You could
maybe.
be the Packers.
I
trade
mean, I don't think
trade it up to get
Jordan Love's
Love.
that great, but sure. So it's like I would like the camp of keeping Geno. If you guys want to save money, cool. I'm not particularly on board with it, but all right for financial purposes. But I think there is a good enough core here to where if you improve some certain areas, this team could be much better and could do some
Yeah.
damage in the postseason. So I like having Geno here. Like I said early in the year, I thought this was a prove it year for Geno. He was good. Um, I don't know how much he really proved outside of what we've already seen, but he is good and a better
Yeah.
quarterback than most in the league. So
He is
um,
above average for
I
sure.
see people saying you can't win a Super Bowl, Gino. I don't think that's true.
He
But it's going to take some help around him to get to
does.
where you can win a Super
It's
Bowl.
Here's the
it's
thing.
hard. Yeah.
You got to 10 wins with absolutely no O-line
Yeah,
and no run game
yeah.
with a defense that at the beginning of the year we thought was going to be maybe top 15 and we ended up top 10. You're about to add pieces to it. And if you get even somewhat of if you even get like just 1 to 2 pieces added to Charles Cross to where you can somewhat develop a run game, like that's a Super Bowl contender.
Well,
I,
we're
I
not,
I would agree with you, Kevin. Yes, I would agree with you. Yeah,
the issue is going to be though, like it's not just simply like in the draft, we're like we'll add a couple pieces. It's big things. We're
Right.
not like you've got to find an elite pass rusher to really drive this team
Oh, I
because
know.
you're like
I'm not saying we're becoming the Bills or the
who are
Chiefs,
you
but
adding on the
like
defense that's a needle mover, Matthew? At what position?
I don't think you need like what exact like Kevin said it's a top 10 defense. Do you disagree with that?
They were top half probably by the end of the year. Yeah.
Okay, and
PFF says
I think you like add a couple. I don't think this defense is like
it does need some. Okay,
You
so
don't
like
have a
like
pass rusher. You
you
still
you need
so
you
the
need
issue
two
is
edge
Matthew.
so
rushers. Yeah.
so so okay. We've got Leo,
Here's
we've
a
got Byron, we've got
Byron Murphy barely played this year. I'm
Yeah.
disappointed in Byron Murphy.
you're
Let's put
disappointed
it
in
this
Brian
way.
Murphy. Okay,
Yeah, so he didn't
Yeah.
even start.
I
Jared Reed played over him. Like my issue is like you it shows the gap. Like you got embarrassed by the good teams and then beat the bad teams. It's not just like a add a couple players and we're gonna make up the difference. You've got to really you got some steps to make up here. I know that you're there, but you got embarrassed by the Packers who aren't even that great. You came close to the Vikings, but you got embarrassed by the Bills. You got embarrassed by the Lions. You've got steps to make to even compete. So you got to like I know we're a couple pieces away, but they're major steps. Like there's major pieces there to really compete with the contenders.
I don't agree with
You don't.
that.
I don't. I still. We're not a
Because
10
I think our
talent
best
team.
game
Right.
was against Detroit and we lost, and that
We
team
played
is very good and they were healthy at the time too, and we kept up. This team,
well.
if you have a few things bounce your way and you have more talent, this team can compete with those
So
top
we
teams
need.
in the
So what
NFC
you're
and
saying
win
is
a
we
Super
need
Bowl.
luck, Matthew. Yeah, we need luck.
I'm
Okay.
not
Well,
saying luck. You just
you just
love
said a
luck
couple
because
things
you
bounced
can't
your way.
explain
Is
it.
what you
Like
just said.
Kevin, where do you come down on this?
Okay, so essentially, I think if you can develop a somewhat decent O line,
We
not
lost by 13 to the
saying,
Lions. We got. We did. It
I
was
know,
not that close.
but
Like,
It
here's the
was.
thing: you have, as you said, you have
we gave 42 points.
you have
Like,
murderer's row for running backs. You just need a somewhat functional O line, at least a top 20 O line. And then you add an at least one good elite edge rusher, and like add Nwosu, and then whatever you have over there.
where are you going to find the edge?
I
Edge
think
rusher?
you can compete. Do I
You can
think?
compete, but like,
But I mean, then plus coaching plus luck, I think you can make a Super Bowl run. And
yeah, but like again, there's luck. But like, my question is like, you add those pieces, and you're the Packers and the Bucks. Like, I just like that's where you're at there. Then like, you're still not the Eagles. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just and then don't get me started on where you are in the AFC. But like, yeah, like I get that. But like, you add like an elite pass rusher and improve on this team, and you add a good guard, and you become the Packers. But the Packers still aren't contenders either. Like you've taken the step up, but you're
but
still not like
Gino can sling the ball. You get better weapons on offense than what the Packers do. Way better
that's
weapons.
for sure. Because yeah, but like you are losing Tyler Lockett, so you have two.
True, but I
Well,
mean, you also still
are
draft a
you?
third. You like Jake Bobo is a somewhat
But
serviceable
Kevin,
and Cody
you
White.
can't draft a wide
Right.
receiver, a
But
guard, an
that
elite pass
where
rusher,
you
and this all in
go
one
to
draft.
mitigate, because you still have two-star receivers. Where you go to
Yeah,
mitigate that is make an O-line to where you can bring in your three-star backs to where you make this a crazy, like to where the defense doesn't know what the fuck to do. Do you stack the box?
yeah.
Do you keep the light box? It's kind of what you were talking about with the Lions, essentially. Like
Where does those good
you
guards
and
come
I
from?
made fun of the fucking Lions of drafting Jameer Gibbs in the first
Yeah,
round. Now
yeah.
we're looking like idiots because
No, that is still not a good draft pick.
That
That
is
is not. It's
absolutely
not
a
a
good
good draft
draft
pick.
pick.
No, it's
It definitely
not.
is. You are focused on analytical value and not looking
No.
at the actual player and what they do for the team. Like
Jameer Gibbs is
we're
very
just on a different wavelength.
Jameer Gibbs is good. So then why did you pay Montgomery?
Because in
You could
today's
you could have
NFL,
a good defense if you
it's
didn't pay
hard to
Montgomery.
have a bell cow running back, and you're
Exactly.
also having Jameer on a cheap deal, and having two running backs
Exactly.
is pretty good, and having
Exactly.
one
You
good running
right
back.
why
now
keep him
we're
fresh.
just that their defense is hurt. You could have defensive players instead of
Where I think they fucked up
Montgomery.
is that you don't pay Montgomery. I think you
Don't
go
pay Montgomery. You don't draft an inside
you
linebacker in the first round.
you should have got like a seventh round back and then used him to switch out.
Yes, that's exactly what you should have done. You're paying way too much for
That's
Montgomery.
where they went wrong.
You missed on your Campbell at inside linebacker, and you drafted him way too high. They saved the draft because they had two great draft picks after that in Sam Laporta. Like they saved it because of that.
He hasn't even been
And
that good this year. Like he's
that's
been there.
purely receiving. Like that is not what a tight end's job completely. Like that is
He was
missing
better
the boat.
last year.
That is missing the boat on what a tight end does. But like
He
your
blocked.
biggest thing was hiring Ben Johnson. It's going to turn that franchise around. So there you go.
Yeah. But like, I mean, at the same time too, when there are crazy elite, just like the kid that's coming out of Boise State is going to get drafted in the first round no matter what.
Absolutely.
Now, does he make that team better? Yes. But is it to where like they're going to be like,
marginal. It's a marginal.
What Jameer
Depends where he goes, but yeah.
Because everybody thought
it's a running back. It's marginal.
Everybody thought the same thing about Bijan Robinson, and then look what the Falcons are doing right now. I mean, they still have weapons, but they don't have a quarterback. So it's like
Bijan Robinson.
Bijan Robinson for the Falcons.
Yeah, the second most efficient running back on his own team.
Right, I know. But
What are
Sure,
we talking about here?
sure.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
totally.
true. But I'm saying people, no, I'm saying people thought that with Bijan Robinson. People
yeah.
thought that he would be what Jameer Gibbs, like the impact, like that they would just be better off. And we made
And
fun
I'm
of
telling you that the difference in what you see is the situation, not the player. That's
No,
why the running backs are
no,
dependent on their situation more than anybody else.
But there
Yeah,
are
sure,
certain
but
star
talent matters.
players that can
talent does
be
matter.
dynamic
Yeah,
of a team. Now, does having a good O-line help with it? Yes. Do I think Jameer Gibbs is still a top running back with half that O-line? Yes.
and
And
that is
also,
being said
yes,
after the fact
and
because
then
everyone had
yes,
Bijan
and
Robinson is more
there's
talented
so
than
many that's the hard aspect is because there's so many different, tools. Ben Johnson, O-line, Jameer Gibbs is just crazy talent. And then the fact that he can stay fresh because he has Montgomery in there to help out with it. So he stays fresh. Um, going about that. It's just the certain circumstances of what the team needs and using coaching to help pick it. Like should like you and I were saying when they drafted Jameer Gibbs, they had other needs of the situation of what they did.
yeah.
What they did in the circumstances is that they used coaching to help
Mm-hmm.
counter that. And that's what you can do. And essentially the decision. Now, do I think Mike McDonald can do that to the same level? Yes. I think that he can use coaching to not put a superstar at a certain position and go get a talent player at another and an exploit to essentially make a difference. Is kind of what me and Matt are leaning toward.
Like I would say the example this year is Tyrese Knight. Like I didn't think Tyrese Knight would be what he was, but he was
Yeah.
pretty solid
But
when they put him in and
at the
finally
same
played him.
time, too, Tyrese Knight toward in the final three games,
Yeah.
we saw what happened is that Tyrese Knight is very undersized, and he literally got manhandled in that Packers game. Like Josh Jacobs made him look like a little 5 year old. Like he just, I mean, he stiff armed him to the ground like he was a sack of
Like
potatoes.
Kobe Bryant was drafted as a quarterback, but he moved him to safety and he coached him to be a safety, and it works so
But
far,
he's
I would say.
also not a top end safety. You would want to still
Absolutely not. No, but
but
in the
yes.
system that Mike has,
You
it
can
works.
you can coach players up if you have the right coach. We see that with Sean McVay all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
We say it with Ben Johnson too. Do I think Amon St. Brown is like a top five receiver?
No.
No. But Ben Johnson makes him better.
Yeah.
Like he put
But we don't have that guy. So
he
all this talk of
utilizes
that, we don't have that guy.
but exactly, but we have the Mike McDonald kind of
Yeah.
version of Ben Johnson to where he makes solid-ish defensive players look
Yeah.
better. To
We
where
got to figure out offense, which is what drives football. We
and
got to
that
figure that part
but
out.
that's what I'm saying. Get the superstar crazy power on offense to help mitigate that because we know that Mike McDonald can coach just generalized medium solid dudes to be take them from a 5 to a 7.58 essentially. He can take a 5 and put him up there versus like go get a superstar right tackle. Go get that third crazy receiver to where you still
Well,
have a three
yeah, we can get a right
partial
tackle.
done.
You're not gonna get the right tackle where you're drafting. Like
Well,
that's the issue.
I know,
Like
I mean,
but like
maybe,
we don't have it.
maybe. Yeah, I mean, maybe. You don't
who
know.
knows?
Yeah.
Like the draft is fucking
Yeah,
weird
but
every.
if we're just hoping and praying and throwing darts, then let's just pray and hope
It's
the
The
not
draft
throwing a
draft
says
dart.
just suck
It's
again.
I
scouting
know.
and picking the guy you want.
And
Anyway,
honestly, you
sorry.
might be able to trade up
God.
without getting some crazy shit to go. You could
Yeah.
probably go up 3, 4 spots to go get somebody that falls.
Yeah.
That type of shit.
We will
So
continue this conversation on the next podcast, I'm sure. Go ahead and tweet at us.
yeah,
Subscribe to us on YouTube. Blue Sky us, whatever that's called. I don't know. Uh, subscribe to us. Smash that subscribe button. Let us know what you think in the comments below. We'll be back probably in a couple weeks, since the 2 seasons we mainly talk about are on break. But
probably yeah.
yeah.
Pretty
But
soon.
until next time, we will see you on Washington East West Sports, and bring back our Sonics, please. Thank you.